It's a challenge to review a game like Centum. No doubt you'll have looked at the nice trailer and been completely baffled as to what the point of the whole game is. I'll tell you right now that sense of confusion won't dissipate even after hours of gameplay. Centum is a game that's more interested in seeing how it can play you. It's a game that presents a series of ever more bizarre cages and simply sits back and watches how you get out. And judges. It always judges. Seemingly presented as the remnants of a video game that was never released. Now, I read that on the store page, but I honestly never got any sense that this was what the game was about, hence why the rest of the review just won't mention it. Centum conjures up 4 different scenarios and measures how you interact with everything. Your actions and choices influence the core AI's behaviour, which in turn alters the course of the story. Nothing in Centum is fixed, not even the identity of the narrator. Games don't often employ the unreliable narrator trope, as it's vastly more difficult to work into the overall narrative, and it risks undermining the efforts of the players. It also risks killing the immersion. I mean, why bother getting invested when what I'm being shown is either not real or doesn't matter? Centum attempts to resolve this by making everything unreliable. Not just the narrator and everything around them, but their very nature. The initial cell is played through an iterative process, much like an AI, forcing you to relive the same 3 days and nights until you escape the cell. How do you escape? Well, you don't know. No one can tell you, and sure, you didn't know why you were in there in the first place, so how much does it matter anyway? You're placed in there by a 5-headed judge who states that every one of your responses is a lie. In the cell is a ghostly boy who insists he's your friend, a skeleton you've drawn on the wall who created the judge but wasn't the one who made them a judge, and a deformed talking rat who hates you and blames you for starting a war you've no memory of. Well, so far so good, yeah? From there, you'll move through an apartment as a lonely programmer whose only company is a demonic tentacled cat who keeps calling you dad, to a playground which will be played through from 4 different perspectives of a group of people who all seem to have escaped from some kind of laboratory experiment and are all clueless as to where they go next. Each of the different cells depicts a different landscape that's either decaying or destroyed. Again, the game leaves this up to the player to decide if these are real or depictions of something real or if they're total fabrications. The different cells are single screen areas that are all distinct but share the same layout. Exit to the left, window to the right, rat hole to the middle. It makes sense in game, trust me. Or it doesn't. So don't. The game's nightmare scenes are rendered in unbelievably good pixel art and are given extra heft by a soundtrack that is, to a note, perfect. That's not hyperbole. This is one of the most powerful soundtracks I've heard since Disco Elysium. There's a running side story about the aftermath of the start of a conflict told using wonderful moving graphics that I just could not get enough of. I loved these sections almost as much as the game proper. The sections I liked a lot less were the tedious retro games you're forced to play or, in my case, endure. They fell flat for me and really could have done with being a bit more engaging, or just had the option to just not bother with them at all. The narrative and the narrator, and, well, all of reality, is unclear, but it carries the player through with clear, concise statements in the dialogue. Often, you'll be trying to cling onto some desperate sense of meaning through the dialogue, navigating your way through the fog of contextless questions and characters like you're panning for gold nuggets of clarity. Now, I don't mean this as a negative, but I do point it out to highlight the fact that this is a game that will require you to be dialed in at all times, or you're just going to be lost in the miasma of the lore. I can only speak to my own experiences with Centum. Is it good? Well, I thought so. I played it from start to finish in nearly one sitting and kept thinking about it long after I finished playing it, which is rare. But does that make it a good game? Does that make it worth buying? Well, for me it does, but then that's just me. And as the game says, just because I can't lie, doesn't mean I'm always right. In conclusion, Hack the publisher had to strike a really fine line between mystery and clarity, and they struck it so well. It wobbled once or twice for me, but it kept its hooks firmly embedded in my brain, and those hooks have still not abated. As to whether this all works or not, well, that's up to you, which is what makes reviewing games like this a challenge. It's such a personal and unique experience, it makes recommending it difficult. But recommending it, I will be. To everyone.